The Architects of Dust. A disillusioned historian discovers an impossibly ancient artifact, unlocking a secret buried in human history. Earth has been under the subtle millennia-long guardianship of the Vail, enigmatic beings who nudged our evolution, but now face a crisis that could shatter their ancient vow of non-interference. Chapter 1. The Tiberius Fragment. Professor Alara Vance stared at the lump of dark-pitted metal on the sterile lab table. It looked like slag, unearthed during routine construction near the ruins of Emperor Tiberius's villa on Capri. Standard procedure sent it for carbon dating. The results had come back 3 times. Each time, the lab technicians had checked their equipment, recalibrated, and run it again. The date remained stubbornly consistent. 200,000 years BCE. Impossible, she whispered, the hum of the university's advanced spectrometry lab suddenly deafening. Human history, Homo sapiens history, stretched back barely 300,000 years. This object, this thing, predated even the earliest known human tools by a staggering margin. And it wasn't just old. Its composition was an alloy unknown to modern science, elements arranged in a complex lattice that defied natural formation and hinted at impossible strength and conductivity. It hummed faintly, almost imperceptibly, under the intense scan beams. Alara, once a rising star in archaeomaterials, had been relegated to the academic backwaters after her controversial paper challenging the conventional timeline of Bronze Age metallurgy. Academia branded her reckless. Now this was either vindication on an unimaginable scale or the final nail in her professional coffin. She touched the cool, unnervingly smooth surface where corrosion hadn't taken hold. A jolt, not electric, but a profound sense of age and otherness shot up her arm. She snatched her hand back, heart pounding. Her phone buzzed. Dr. Aris Thorne, the head of the physics department and one of the few who hadn't ostracized her. Alara? The report? It can't be right. Did you contaminate the sample? No, Aris, she said, her voice tight. It's clean. The date is real. The composition? Aris, it's like nothing on Earth. A long pause. Secure it. Full quarantine protocols. I'm calling in. Others. His voice held a gravity she'd never heard before. This goes beyond archaeology, Alara. Beyond anything. Later that night, alone in the high-security vault, Alara examined the fragment under a multispectral imager. Hidden beneath millennia of grime, revealed only by specific non-visible wavelengths, was an intricate pattern. Not writing, not circuitry, but something in between. Geometric forms flowing into organic shapes, pulsing with a faint internal light when stimulated by the imager's beam. It felt like peering into the blueprint of reality itself. As she documented the pattern, a shadow detached itself from the deeper darkness of the vault's corner. Not human. Tall, impossibly slender, its form seeming to absorb the low light rather than reflect it. 2 large, obsidian eyes regarded her without blinking. Alara froze, breath catching in her throat. The air grew thick, charged with static. The figure didn't move, didn't speak. It simply watched her, an ancient alien intelligence assessing. Then, as silently as it appeared, it dissolved into the shadows, leaving no trace but the lingering scent of ozone and the chilling certainty in Alara's mind. The impossible date was real, and someone, or something else, knew it. Chapter 2. Whispers in the Archive. The fragment, codenamed Tiberius 1, was whisked away to a clandestine facility buried deep beneath the Swiss Alps. Alara, bound by draconian non-disclosure agreements and under the watchful eye of Dr. Lena Petrova, a stern astrophysicist representing a shadowy international consortium known only as the Vigil, found herself part of a team she never knew existed. The facility, dubbed Archive Prime, was a marvel. Holographic displays flickered with star maps spanning millennia, data streams scrolled in unknown languages, and secure vaults held artifacts that defied explanation. A crystal lens focusing non-visible light, a shard of obsidian humming with contained energy, a piece of woven fabric impervious to extremes. This, Petrova stated, gesturing around the cavernous main chamber, is humanity's insurance policy, or its Pandora's box. We collect anomalies. Tiberius 1 is the most significant in over a century. Alara's role was historical context. She was tasked with scouring human history, myth, and archaeology for echoes of the fragment's impossible date or its cryptic pattern. It was needle in a haystack work, frustrating and overwhelming. Days blurred into weeks of combing digitized archives, cross-referencing obscure texts, analyzing ancient art under spectral enhancement. She found hints. A cave painting in Chauvet, France, depicting tall, slender figures among the animals, dated controversially to around 30,000 BCE, still vastly younger than Tiberius I, but hinting at ancient observers. Babylonian star charts marked with watchers near constellations unknown to modern astronomy. Greek myths of Prometheus bringing fire, knowledge from the gods. Vedic descriptions of the Vimana, flying chariots. Always fleeting, always ambiguous. One sleepless night, running a complex pattern recognition algorithm on high-resolution scans of the fragment against a global database of ancient symbols, she got a hit. Not a perfect match, but a startling resonance. It came from a source she hadn't considered, the Voynich manuscript. The unreadable 15th century book, a perpetual mystery, contained botanical illustrations unlike any known plant. Hidden within the swirling, impossible leaves of one illustration, enhanced by Archive Prime software, was a geometric motif eerily similar to a sub-pattern on Tiberius I. The date was wrong, the context bizarre, but the similarity was undeniable. It felt like a whisper across centuries. Petrova was intrigued but cautious. Coincidence? Forgery? Or a message deliberately obscured? The vigil intensified its global search for similar artifacts or references. Meanwhile, Alara felt watched. Not just by Petrova's security, but by something else. A flicker of shadow where none should be, a fleeting chill, the sense of immense, patient observation. The memory of the figure in the vault haunted her. Were they still here, invisible guardians of the archive, or something more? Chapter 3, The Renaissance Gambit. The Vigil's deep-core scans of Tiberius I revealed something astonishing. Embedded within its alien lattice were microscopic inclusions, not defects, but data storage of unimaginable density. Decoding it was like trying to read a symphony with a Geiger counter. Progress was glacial, yielding fragments, complex mathematical formulae, star coordinates pointing to a dense cluster near the galactic core, and fleeting, distorted images of landscapes utterly alien, crystalline forests under binary suns, cities of light woven into nebulae. One sequence, however, proved clearer. It depicted Earth, but not as it was 200,000 years ago. It showed Europe during what Alara recognized as the late 15th century. The image focused on a specific location: Florence. Zooming in, it revealed a familiar figure: Leonardo da Vinci, working late in his studio. The perspective wasn't from ground level, but from high above, as if observed from a great height or orbit. The sequence showed Leonardo sketching furiously, inspired. Then, a subtle pulse of light, invisible to the human eye but clear in the data stream, emanated from a point high above Florence, bathing the artist's studio. Leonardo paused, looked up towards the unseen source with an expression not of fear, but of profound wonder and sudden, intense clarity. He immediately began sketching a new design, impossibly advanced for the time, resembling a primitive helicopter. This wasn't observation, Alara breathed, analyzing the data stream overlay. This was intervention, a targeted stimulus. They sparked his genius. Petrova's face was grim. Confirmation bias or proof of manipulation? Further cross-referencing revealed disturbing patterns. Similar subtle energy signatures correlated with other Renaissance leaps. Copernicus's heliocentric revelation, Galileo's telescopic discoveries, even the sudden surge in anatomical accuracy in art. Each coincided with periods of documented inspiration or divine insight reported by the figures involved. It wasn't just knowledge, Alara argued, her historian's instincts firing. It was about direction, nudging humanity towards empirical observation, away from dogma, accelerating the scientific revolution. The implications were staggering. Human progress, our very enlightenment, potentially orchestrated. Eris Thorne, now deeply involved in the physics side, presented another angle. The energy signature, it's incredibly refined, not destructive. It interacts with neural pathways, specifically those associated with creativity and pattern recognition. It's a catalyst, not a command. The question hung heavy. Why? Why push humanity towards science? And why remain hidden? The Veil, as the archive team tentatively named them, based on fragmented linguistic patterns in the data, seemed benevolent guides. But Alara couldn't shake the unease. Guardians who manipulated from the shadows. What happened when their wards started asking questions they weren't supposed to? Chapter 4. The Crucible of War. The vial data fragments weren't confined to gentle nudges. As the decoding team pushed deeper, accessing more corrupted or fragmented files, a darker pattern emerged. The interventions weren't always subtle, and their purpose wasn't always clear-cut advancement. They uncovered a sequence centered on the early 20th century. It showed not a pulse of inspiration, but a complex, multi-layered energy field projected over a specific region of the Balkans in June 1914. Analysis suggested it subtly influenced electromagnetic fields and possibly even neurochemistry on a localized scale. It coincides, Petrova stated, overlaying historical maps, almost precisely with the route Archduke Franz Ferdinand's motorcade took in Sarajevo. Readings indicate heightened agitation and impaired judgment in the immediate vicinity during the field's activation. Alara felt cold. Are you suggesting they engineered the assassination that sparked World War I? Not engineered, perhaps, Eris countered, studying the physics. More like greased the wheels, lowered inhibitions, amplified existing tensions at a critical moment, made the unthinkable slightly more thinkable. The implications were horrifying. Why would Guardians plunge humanity into such carnage? Further fragments provided a chilling rationale. The sequence was tagged with vial symbols, translating roughly to societal stress test and technological catalyst forced. The war, with its unprecedented industrial-scale slaughter, did indeed shatter old empires, accelerate technological innovation, aviation, chemistry, medicine, and pave the way for the even more transformative and dangerous developments of the mid-20th century. The pattern repeated, horrifyingly. Data snippets hinted at vile manipulation during the rise of extremist ideologies in the 1930s, not creating Hitler or Stalin, but subtly amplifying societal fractures, exploiting economic despair, making the population more receptive to radical solutions. The ultimate stress test. World War II. Alara recoiled. They used genocide, atomic fire, as a laboratory experiment? To push us forward? Petrova looked haunted. Their perspective, their timescale is inhuman. They see centuries, millennia. To them, a world war might be a necessary, if brutal, surgical procedure to excise stagnation and force an evolutionary leap. She pulled up an image. The Trinity test, the first atomic explosion. Vale's sensor readings saturated the data stream. They observed. They measured. They approved the leap. The benevolent Guardian's image was shattered. They were architects, yes, but cold, pragmatic ones, willing to use humanity's darkest hours as tools. What was their ultimate design? And what happened when humanity developed tools too powerful, too fast? Like the atomic bomb, or whatever Tiberius I represented. Chapter 5. First Contact Protocol. The tension within Archive Prime was palpable. The revelations about the world wars fractured the team. Some, like Petrova, argued for extreme caution, viewing the Veil as immoral engineers. Others, like Aris, saw a painful necessity in their actions, a harsh love driving a stubborn child towards maturity. Alara felt adrift, her historical understanding useless against such cosmic calculus. The breakthrough came unexpectedly. Aris, working on the fundamental physics of the Tiberius alloy, discovered it resonated at a specific complex frequency when exposed to a modulated neutrino stream, technology barely within humanity's grasp. He theorized it wasn't just material. It was a beacon, a receiver. We've been trying to brute force the data, he argued. Maybe we need to call them on their frequency. Petrova vehemently opposed it. We don't know their current intentions. What if they see us as a failed experiment? What if contact triggers a containment protocol? Alara surprised herself. We have to know. We've uncovered their manipulations, their interventions. Hiding won't protect us. Ignorance is our real enemy now. We activate the beacon. After days of fierce debate, Petrova reluctantly authorized a minimal test. Deep within the shielded core of Archive Prime, Tiberius I was placed in a chamber designed to generate the precise neutrino resonance. The air crackled with tension as power surged. The fragment began to glow, the intricate patterns blazing with internal light. A deep, subsonic hum vibrated through the rock. For minutes, nothing. Then the main holographic display flickered. Star maps dissolved, replaced by a view not from a camera, but seemingly from the fragment itself. It showed the chamber, the anxious faces of the team, and then shifted perspective impossibly fast, soaring out of the mountain above the Alps into space. Earth dwindled below, a blue marble. The view stabilized. Before them hung a vessel. It was not a ship of gleaming metal, but something organic and ancient, like a vast, dormant seed pod, grown from dark, fibrous material that seemed to drink the starlight. It emitted no engine glow, made no sound in the vacuum. It simply was! Radiating an aura of immense age and quiet power, a communication channel opened. Not audio, but pure data, concepts, and emotions flooding directly into their minds. It was overwhelming, alien, yet strangely comprehensible. The thought concept carried images of star nurseries, the slow dance of galaxies, the rise and fall of countless civilizations. We have watched. We have guided. We are the gardeners of potential. Alara found her voice, transmitted through the neural interface. Guided? You manipulated us. You used our wars, our suffering. An image of a gardener pruning a tree, the cut branches falling away. Growth requires correction. Stagnation is death. Your species possesses a unique spark, adaptability, resilience, the drive to question, but also dangerous volatility. We intervene to steer you away from self-annihilation, to accelerate your understanding before you gain the power to destroy yourselves and others. The Tiberius fragment, the thought continued, focusing on the artifact, is a watchstone. Placed long ago, when your ancestors first showed the glimmer of sentience. It monitors, it records, it connects. Your activation signals your readiness or your imminent failure. Why reveal yourselves now? Petrova demanded. A wave of profound sorrow, ancient and weary, washed over them. Images flooded in, a region of space near the galactic core, roiling with unnatural gravitational storms. A vast predatory shadow, a devourer of stars and civilizations, moving slowly but inexorably on an ancient path, directly towards the Orion Arm. Towards Earth. The devourer comes, a legacy of a war fought before your world cooled. It cannot be stopped by force we possess without violating our deepest oath, non-interference in the natural evolution of younger species. Your world lies in its path. Your species possesses a volatility, a capacity for explosive technological leaps born of the crucible we helped shape. The implication was terrifyingly clear. The Vial saw humanity not just as a ward, but as a potential weapon. A weapon forged in the fires of wars they had subtly encouraged, and they needed it now. The gardeners were asking their most dangerous creation to fight a war older than humanity itself. Chapter 6. The Burden of Knowledge. Silence hung heavy in Archive Prime after the Veil transmission ended. The vast, ancient vessel, designated Seed Vessel Alpha, remained in high orbit, a silent, brooding presence felt by every nation with space surveillance capabilities. Panic was contained only by the Vigil's global influence and carefully managed leaks hinting at a benign astronomical phenomenon. Inside the archive, the team grappled with the burden. The Veil had provided coordinates, not of the Devourer itself, which was still decades away, but of scattered caches, outposts, labs, or perhaps armories, left behind by the Veil or other ancient civilizations during the long-ago war against the Devourer's creators. These caches, hidden within the solar system and nearby star systems, contain technology fragments, data, potentially weapons, tools humanity could use to defend itself, and by extension, become the Vial's proxy warriors. They want us to scavenge the battlefields of gods, Aris muttered, studying the star charts, and wield weapons we barely understand. Petrova focused on the political nightmare. We have to tell the world powers, selectively, the US, China, EU, Russia, India, form a coalition, Project Aegis, but revealing the full extent of Vial manipulation, the wars, it could shatter any unity. It could lead to panic, blame, even attacks on the seed vessel. Alara felt the historian's perspective was crucial. We can't hide it forever. Knowledge of their past interventions is key to understanding their motives now. We need context. We need to know why the Veil fight this way, why they refuse direct action. What is this oath that binds them? She delved back into the decrypted Tiberius data, searching for clues about Vial history and philosophy. Fragments spoke of the First Bloom, their own violent, explosive ascent to sentience that nearly destroyed their world. They learned the terrible cost of unfettered power. Their subsequent philosophy, the Quiet Way, emphasized subtle guidance, fostering potential in others without imposing their own path. Direct intervention, especially militaristic, was anathema. a return to their own destructive origins. Their long lives bred immense patience, but also a detachment that allowed them to see civilizations as experiments, wars as necessary pruning. They see themselves as shepherds, Alara concluded, presenting her findings, preventing their flock from wandering off a cliff, even if it means steering them through a dangerous pass. Our suffering is real to us, but to them, it's a statistical necessity in a billion-year perspective. It's monstrous, argued Major Chen, the Vigil's military liaison. They bred us in a crucible of war and now expect us to die fighting their ancient enemy? Or evolve, Aris countered. They've given us a chance, access to technology centuries ahead, a purpose beyond ourselves. The first Aegis mission was planned. A multinational crew aboard the newly retrofitted deep space vessel Odyssey, heading to a Veil cache detected within the Kuiper Belt, a dormant object codenamed Forge. Its purpose was unknown. Alara insisted on going. Someone needs to understand what we're digging up. Not just physicists, but someone who understands the architects. Reluctantly, Petrova agreed. As the Odyssey prepared for departure, Alara accessed a newly decrypted Tiberius fragment. It showed Earth during the height of the Cold War, the Cuban Missile Crisis. Veil sensors were focused intently on both Washington and Moscow. Data streams indicated a complex, planet-wide energy field on standby, designed not to inspire, but to suppress. To induce apathy, fatalism, to dampen the aggressive impulses of key decision-makers, making the unthinkable less thinkable. They hadn't just accelerated war, they had also silently prevented Armageddon. The gardeners, it seemed, pruned with one hand and shielded with the other. It didn't absolve them, but it complicated the picture. As the Odyssey left Earth orbit, passing the silent, watchful bulk of Seed Vessel Alpha, Alara wondered, were they being given tools or being led into a larger, more deadly garden? Chapter 7, The Forge of Prometheus. The journey to the Kuiper Belt was tense. The Odyssey, a marvel of international cooperation built on secret Vigil technologies, partially reverse-engineered from Tiberius 1, felt like a tin can hurtling into the unknown. Seed Vessel Alpha shadowed them at a discreet distance, a constant, silent reminder of the stakes. The cache Forge wasn't an asteroid. It was a Vial construct, a colossal, irregular sphere of the same dark, fibrous material as the Seed Vessel, adrift in the frozen dark. Docking was unnerving. The material seemed to welcome the ship, flowing open like organic iris without visible mechanisms. Inside was not a warehouse, but a cathedral of technology. Strange, root-like structures pulsed with internal light. Floating orbs of condensed energy drifted through cavernous spaces. The air hummed with power. Walls shimmered with active displays showing complex molecular structures and energy flows. This wasn't just a cache. It was a factory. A living factory. Eris led the science team, awestruck. It's biological technology, organic machines, self-repairing, self-replicating in controlled conditions. Scans revealed it was dormant, awaiting activation protocols. Protocols the Veil transmitted once the Odyssey confirmed arrival. The purpose became horrifyingly clear. Forge wasn't stocked with weapons. It built them. Using raw materials harvested from asteroids or planets, it could fabricate devices based on Vial schematics. The first schematic downloaded was for a gravitic lance, a weapon capable of inducing catastrophic space-time distortions within a localized area. It was a planet killer. Major Chen saw only potential. This changes everything. We can build a defense fleet! Arm our stations! Alara recoiled. This is exactly what the Vial wanted, to turn us into weaponsmiths, into warriors. Is this our evolution, becoming dealers of destruction like the Devourer's creators? Aris was more measured, but deeply troubled. The technology, it's incredible, but it's also hungry. Look at the resource requirements. To build one lance requires the mass of a small moon. Activating Forge fully would mean strip mining the outer solar system. It's industrial warfare on a cosmic scale. The Vial perspective became chillingly clear. They wouldn't break their oath by wielding such weapons themselves, but they could provide the means and the motivation for humanity to wield them. Humanity, forged in the crucible of their manipulations, volatile and technologically aggressive, would become their proxy army, fighting with tools the Vial themselves abhorred. Debate raged within the Odyssey and back to Archive Prime. Activate Forge? Become the Vial's military-industrial complex? Or refuse, and face the Devourer with conventional technology doomed to fail. Alara explored the forge, seeking context. She found a chamber unlike the others. Instead of humming machinery, it held stillness. In its center stood a pedestal holding a single perfect crystal. As she approached, it glowed, projecting holograms. Not schematics, but records. She saw the vial long ago, vibrant and diverse, exploring the galaxy. She saw the rise of the Devourer's creators, a species of pure, predatory intellect that consumed others not for resources, but to erase perceived imperfection, to impose sterile order. She saw the terrible war, the Veil reluctantly abandoning their quiet way to fight fire with fire, using weapons like the gravitic lance. She saw the cost, Veil worlds shattered, their culture scarred by the violence they unleashed. In the aftermath, survivors swore the oath of silence, never again to wield such power directly, only to guard others from similar annihilation, even if it meant guiding them down the same dark path they themselves had walked. The crystal showed Earth, not manipulated but observed during moments of pure unguided achievement. The building of the pyramids not through alien tech but human ingenuity. The compassion shown after natural disasters. The first human steps on the moon driven by our own curiosity. The message was clear. Humanity had potential beyond violence. The forge was an option. A terrible one, but not the only one. Alara returned to the team, her resolve hardening. They show us this horror to warn us, not just to arm us. They offer the forge because it's the only tool they have left that might work, but they know it's poison. We have a choice. Not just to fight, but how to fight! We have to find another way. Echoes of dust. Alara's revelation from the memory crystal sparked fierce debate. Major Chen and the military faction saw the gravitic lance as the only viable defense against a star-killing entity. Refusal was suicide. Aris and a growing number of scientists were horrified by the scale of destruction inherent in using the forge and the precedent it set. Petrova, receiving reports from Earth, delivered grim news. Rumors of the forge's capability had leaked. Global tensions soared. Nations demanded access to the technology, threatening withdrawal from Project Aegis. The fragile coalition strained under the weight of the weapon's promise and the fear of the Devourer. The Veil remained silent observers, offering no further guidance. Their position was clear. The tools were provided. The choice was humanity's. Alara, convinced the answer lay not in mimicking ancient horrors, but in finding a uniquely human solution, pushed to explore other Veil caches on the provided list. One, designated Chorus, located near Saturn's moon Titan, resonated differently in the data, associated not with weaponry, but with communication and energy manipulation. Diverting the Odyssey to Titan was a political gamble, opposed by Chen and his supporters who saw it as a dangerous delay. Petrova, swayed by Alara's arguments and the memory crystal's message, overruled them. If we become the thing we fight, survival is meaningless. We investigate Chorus. Chorus was smaller than Forge, nestled within a cavern on Titan's frozen surface. It wasn't a factory, but a complex array of crystalline structures humming with resonant energy. Scans revealed it was a colossal sensor array and communication hub designed to detect and analyze complex energy signatures across light years and project modulated energy fields. It's not a weapon, Aris realized, studying the schematics slowly decrypting. It's a tuner. It detects fundamental energy frequencies and can resonate with them, amplify them, or cancel them out, like noise canceling on a cosmic scale. Alara saw the connection. The vial used subtle energy fields to influence us. Inspiration, suppression. This is that principle, amplified astronomically. Could it resonate with the Devourer? Aris ran simulations. The Devourer, according to Vial data, wasn't a ship, but a self-replicating space-time anomaly, a wound in reality propagating outward. It emitted a unique, complex gravitational and energetic signature, its song. If we can analyze that signature with Chorus, Aris theorized, excitement warring with disbelief, and project a precisely inverted resonance, we might not destroy it, but stabilize it, heal the wound, cancel out the destructive frequency. It was audacious, unproven. It required understanding the Devourer's fundamental nature on a level humanity hadn't achieved. It was the opposite of the Forge's blunt force, a subtle, precise intervention mirroring the Veil's quiet way, but applied defensively on a cosmic scale. Chen dismissed it. theory. While that thing approaches, we need guaranteed destruction, not academic harmonics. Back on Earth, the pressure intensified. A faction within the Chinese delegation, fearing Western monopoly on forged technology, launched a secret, rushed mission to another cache, Anvil, located in the asteroid belt, suspected to be a weapons depot. Their ship, the Pioneer, reached Anvil. Sensor feeds showed them accessing the cache, then vanished in a catastrophic energy burst. Anvil wasn't a depot. It was a trap, or perhaps a test, left by a species paranoid after the ancient war. The Pioneer and its crew were vaporized. The disaster shocked the Aegis Coalition. The Vael caches weren't gifts, they were trials, dangerous legacies from a paranoid past. Using them required understanding, not just desire. The Forge suddenly seemed less like salvation and more like another potential death trap. The loss of the Pioneer and the revelation of Chorus's potential shifted the balance. The gamble to find another way gained traction. Humanity had to fight, not with the Vael's old weapons, but with new understanding. They had to learn the Devourer's song and compose an antidote. The Odyssey began deploying sensor buoys, built using principles gleaned from Chorus, along the projected path of the Devourer. The race was on. Understand the ancient horror before it reached the edge of the solar system. The gardeners watched, their ancient, inscrutable faces perhaps showing a flicker of hope, or merely the patience to see if this new volatile species could succeed where they themselves had failed long ago. Chapter 9. The Song of the Void. Years bled into each other. The Odyssey became a mobile command center, coordinating the deployment of thousands of sensor buoys across light years of empty space, forming a vast listening net tuned to the frequencies of space-time itself. Chorus on Titan was activated, its crystalline arrays humming with focused power, amplifying the faint whispers captured by the buoys and refining the analysis. The Devourer drew closer. Telescopes couldn't see it directly, but its effects were horrifyingly clear. Stars near its path dimmed and flickered erratically. Nebulae were ripped into unnatural streamers. The very background radiation of space showed subtle, sickening distortions in its wake. It was a cosmic cancer cell, metastasizing through the galaxy. On Earth, Project Aegis held, but barely. The memory of the Pioneer disaster and the sheer scale of the Chorus plan prevented a rush to the Forge. Resources poured into the sensor net and deciphering the Devourer's signature. Global cooperation reached unprecedented levels, born of existential dread. Yet, distrust simmered. Nations jockeyed for control of the data, for influence over whatever defense emerged. Old divisions, momentarily forgotten, began to resurface under the strain. Alara, now a key advisor bridging history and the alien science, spent her time immersed in the Devourer's song. It wasn't sound, but a complex data stream representing the fundamental distortions it caused, a symphony of entropy. It was chaotic, aggressive, yet beneath the fury, she sensed patterns. Like the underlying structure in the Tiberius fragment, but twisted, diseased. "It's not random destruction," she argued during a tense briefing. "Look at these recurring sequences in the gravitational waveforms. It's structured, almost algorithmic, like a machine stuck in a feedback loop of consumption." Aris, leading the physics team, agreed. "The Vael data suggests it was created as a weapon. Perhaps it's following its original programming blindly, long after its creators are gone. It doesn't hate, it simply consumes imperfect patterns." This insight changed everything. Destroying it might be impossible with their resources. But disrupting its programming? Introducing a counterfrequency, a healing resonance projected by Chorus, designed to interrupt its consumption cycle and force it into dormancy or dissolution? It was still a monumental task, requiring pinpoint accuracy across interstellar distances with energy projections on a stellar scale, but it felt less like fighting a god and more like debugging a corrupted machine. The challenge was the sheer complexity and power of the Devourer's signal. Chorus could generate the counterfrequency in theory, but projecting it with enough strength and precision to affect the vast anomaly seemed beyond their capabilities. They needed more power, finer control. The answer came from an unexpected source, Tiberius 1 itself. Deep scans revealed the Watchstone wasn't just a beacon and recorder, it was a quantum-entangled resonator, intrinsically linked to the fundamental energy fields of Earth itself. Eris proposed a terrifyingly elegant solution. Use Tiberius 1 as the final focusing lens and amplifier for Chorus's projection. It would channel the combined energy output of Titan's facility, focused through the ancient artifact's connection to Earth's planetary resonance. But the energy levels, Petrova objected. Channeling that through Tiberius 1, it could shatter the artifact. Or worse, induce catastrophic planetary feedback. It could crack the Earth like an egg. It's a risk, Eris admitted, his face drawn. But it's the only way to get the power and precision we need. The Watchstone was designed to interact with Earth's fields. We have to trust its makers. Knew it could handle significant energy flow. We have to hope. The decision rested on a knife edge. Use the Forge and become warriors, potentially dooming themselves to the Veil's violent legacy? Or gamble everything on Chorus and Tiberius 1, risking Earth itself for a chance at a different future? Seed Vessel Alpha remained silent, observing. Alara looked at the hologram of the ancient Veil vessel. Is this the test? She thought. Not just of our technology, but of our choice. As the Devourer entered the outer Oort cloud, its distortions now detectable by civilian telescopes, causing global panic, the Aegis Council made its choice. Humanity would not take up the ancient weapons. They would fight with understanding, with resonance, and with the fragile ancient link between an alien artifact and their own world. Tiberius 1 was carefully transported from Archive Prime and integrated into the massive energy conduits feeding Chorus on Titan. The fate of Earth rested on a gamble devised by a historian and a physicist aiming to heal a wound in the cosmos. Chapter 10. Architects of the Future. The solar system held its breath. On Titan, Chorus thrummed with contained stellar energy, focused through the labyrinthine crystalline array, and channeled towards the dark, ancient form of Tiberius 1, now suspended in a containment field at the facility's heart. On Earth, deep core sensors monitored planetary stresses, ready to trigger catastrophic shutdowns if Tiberius 1 destabilized. The Devourer filled the main display. Not an object, but a rippling absence. A vortex of distorted space swallowing the light of background stars. Its song, a torrent of destructive data, screamed through the sensor net, a physical pressure felt by the crew of the Odyssey millions of kilometers away. Final sequence loaded, Eris announced, his voice tight. The counterfrequency, a complex waveform of stabilizing resonance painstakingly crafted from years of analysis, was ready. Projection pathway locked, Tiberius 1 holding stable, for now. Initiate, Petrova commanded, her face pale but resolute. Power surged, Titan's icy surface glowed from within, Chorus flared, visible even from orbit, as a beacon of pure, coherent energy. That energy, containing the carefully crafted antidote to the Devourer's chaos, focused down onto Tiberius 1. The artifact didn't shatter. It ignited. The intricate patterns blazed with impossible light, not just on its surface, but through it, as if revealing its core structure. A beam, pure and white and impossibly precise, lanced out from Titan, not into space, but through it, bending via principles beyond human grasp, aimed directly at the heart of the Devourer. Silence. The beam struck the rippling darkness. For a moment, nothing happened. The Devourer continued its implacable advance. Then, a tremor. The distortion field flickered. The chaotic song stuttered. The counterfrequency wasn't destroying, it was interfering, disrupting the fundamental pattern of consumption, like pouring oil on troubled waters, but on a cosmic scale. The disruption intensified. The Devourer didn't explode, it unraveled. The vortex of distorted space began to smooth out. The swallowed light of distant stars flickered back into existence within its boundaries. The aggressive data stream softened, fragmented, dissolving into harmless background noise. On the Odyssey, cheers erupted, hesitant at first, then overwhelming. Aris slumped in his chair, tears streaming down his face. Petrova closed her eyes, whispering a prayer of thanks. Alara watched, not the display, but Tiberius 1's feed. The artifact pulsed rhythmically, channeling immense power, its ancient patterns glowing with steady light. It held. Earth held. The feedback was contained, directed. The Watchstone was fulfilling its deepest function, protecting the world it had observed for millennia. The unraveling continued. Within hours, the Devourer was gone, not destroyed, but neutralized, stabilized. A vast region of calm, healed space remained where the anomaly had been. the Song of the Void returned to its natural harmony. A new communication channel opened, not from Seed Vessel Alpha, but seemingly from Tiberius 1 itself. The vile presence filled their minds, but the tone was different. Ancient sorrow remained, but layered with something new. Profound respect, and a touch of wonder. You have chosen. The thought concept carried images of the healing anomaly, of Chorus resonating, of Tiberius 1 shining. Not the path of the sword, but the path of the healer. Not destruction, but understanding made manifest. You have used the tools not to replicate our failures, but to transcend them. Our vigil is altered. The quiet way was our shield, born of fear of our own power. You have shown a different strength. The strength to wield knowledge with compassion, to face the void not with fury, but with wisdom. The Watchstone remains. We withdraw our direct oversight. The garden is yours to tend. You are no longer seedlings in our care. You are fellow gardeners in the vast fields of time. The presence faded. On the long-range scanners, Seed Vessel Alpha was gone, vanished as silently as it arrived. Only the healed scar in space and the humming silence of Chorus remained. Epilogue, 1 year later. Alara Vance stood on a viewing platform overlooking the Tiberius Chamber within the now publicly acknowledged Archive Prime, renamed the Terran Heritage Center. Tiberius 1 rested on its pedestal, no longer dark and pitted, but softly glowing with internal light, a symbol of revelation and resilience. School groups marveled at it, scientists still studied its secrets. The full history of vile influence was public knowledge. It caused shockwaves, anger, and intense debate. Societies grappled with the knowledge that their darkest hours and brightest achievements had unseen hands subtly involved. But the revelation of the Devourer, the choice humanity made, and the Vial's final acknowledgement shifted the narrative. It wasn't about blame, but about understanding the immense responsibility of sentience. Project Aegis evolved into the Stellar Concord, a true federation of Earth nations focused on exploration, understanding alien legacies, approached with extreme caution after the Anvil disaster, and developing technologies based on resonance, healing, and sustainable growth, not destruction. Chorus on Titan became the Concord's primary research hub, studying cosmic phenomena and developing defenses based on the principles that neutralized the Devourer. Alara, no longer disillusioned, held a new position, chief historian of the Concord. Her task was monumental, to integrate the Veil's hidden history into humanity's own story, not as a tale of manipulation, but as a complex prologue to their own awakening. To document the choice humanity made at the brink. She looked at the softly glowing artifact. It wasn't just a relic of alien guardians. It was a mirror. It reflected humanity's capacity for both terrible violence and profound empathy, for blind obedience and courageous choice. The Vial had been architects of dust, shaping history from the shadows. Humanity, facing the void, had chosen to become architects of light, shaping its own destiny with open eyes. The future was unwritten, vast, and filled with unknown challenges. But as Alara watched the light pulse within Tiberius 1, a rhythm steady and strong, she felt not fear, but a quiet certainty. They had passed the gardener's final test. They had earned their place in the cosmic garden. Now, the real work began. The story of humanity, the architects of their own future, was finally entering its first true chapter.